Hello, hello. Hi guys. Tom here. So this is the video I think I should have made originally, a few months ago. But what a journey it's been. Crazy. I've learned so much about myself recently, and it's just I'm becoming so fascinated in this whole Myers-Briggs thing and also psychology. It's just opening in another realm to get completely lost in and stuck in and to explore and all that kind of stuff. So I thought, I know I said in previous videos that I was going to try and upload more videos helping to differentiate between INFP and INFJ for anyone who's still stuck on that, to try and help you guys out, and I will. But I thought it's time to upload a video and continue on my discovery of being an INFJ, and I guess just to talk about a few things and see if other people can relate. Just looking back on my life, becoming more aware of things that for a long time I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought there were things that were just, unique to me. And now I'm starting to see other people and come across other people on forums and people online, and it's like, oh my god, there's other people out there who have gone through this and experienced it and are not actually broken. It seems to be, it's kind of all part and parcel of being an INFJ. So I'm just gonna ad lib, riff, see where he goes. Probably gonna go off massive tangents. That will happen. That's what usually happens. So what's it been like living as an INFJ, especially living as a guy? Because I don't think there's many of us out there from what I'm seeing. I guess the words I'd use to describe living as an INFJ would be contradictions, paradoxes, confusion, nuance, sensitivity, loneliness. Yeah. So what's it actually been like? Well, what can I tell you? All my life I've always felt like myself, whatever this self is, has been something that I've always been chasing after, and I've always been trying to grasp and figure it out. Although I like to give the advice to other people, just be yourself, I've realised it's advice that if I try and give to myself, it just opens up a Pandora's box of contradictory evidence and information when I look at how I've been living my life. Because I've always been very good, ever since I was a young boy, at being able to quite quickly fit in amongst different groups of people, and being able to figure out how to act and behave around different groups of people to make myself appear to be one of them. And this has been a great way to kind of move through life in one aspect, I guess, but it's almost an unconscious thing, and it's something I've been doing all my life, and sometimes I don't even realise I'm doing it. But this has caused great turmoil and a lot of suffering for myself, because when I try and come to a deeper understanding of who I am as an individual, there are so many contradictions and so many paradoxes, because there are times when I can be extremely outgoing, and I can have that persona as a very outgoing person, and I enjoy being around people, I enjoy meeting new people, I enjoy talking to people, especially if I can get one-on-one with people. I can make friends quite quickly. I can make my personality, I'll be honest, it's opened doors for me in the past, and that's good. That's a good thing, I can't say that's something I don't like about myself. I do like that about myself. But at the other hand, there's times when I seem to operate from the complete opposite end of the spectrum, and I just go into heavy introversion, and I want to get away from everything and everyone. And the last few months have kind of felt like this, I almost feel like I've gone into a bit of a hibernation over these last couple of months of winter time, and it's kind of apt that spring is now coming, and I'm starting to feel a bit more alive again, and like I want to start to go out into the world and gather more information, have more experiences, and I guess relate them back to all the stuff that's going on up here, and see if it gives me any new insights. But ever since I was a young boy, going back to the days of primary school and all that, I was always very aware of feeling older than I was. I could be in groups of fellow classmates, my peers, and I always felt whatever was happening, whether there was a new craze going on, that was sweeping the playground. I mean, I come from the generation where crazes still existed. I don't know if they still exist anymore. It's probably what new app you have on your phone. But back in my day, God, this is how old I'm sounding already. But back in my day, it was Pokemon cards, Pogs, football stickers, shinies, Furbies, Tamagotchi, those juggly things, what are they called, where you would throw them in the air and catch them on a piece of string. Loads of crazes. Yo-yos were massive. And whenever one of these crazes came along, I was always like the last kid to get into it. Because at first I was just like, I don't care, what? I'm not really interested in it. I'm happy with my my old toys are, or I'm happy kind of almost just playing my imagination. And I was always the last. And I remember when Pokemon came on, I think I bought one pack of Pokemon cards, and I got Charizard. But I tried to play at one time with some friends in the playground. It's just a bunch of cards. I don't understand what the fascination is. And I think I sold my Charizard card for 50p and bought some sweets. But anyway, this feeling of a slight, of being older than I was, and also just always feeling a bit isolated from other people, even though I had friends and I did all the things a kid does, it always continued on. It has continued on through my life. And I always just thought it's because I was shy, or maybe I was anxious, or whatever. And I do have those in certain respects. But when it came to big life changes and movements, such as transitioning from primary school to high school, things like that always just completely almost sent me to rock bottom. And I found things like that so terrifying. Huge changes in routine, huge changes in location, and new people that I seem to find very frightening. And it took me a long time to settle into high school, it did. And I guess that's where the whole realising that I was quite good at changing my persona and merging into different groups arose. And that's where a lot of this confusion came from, and it's probably what led me eventually to finding Myers-Briggs, to try and get a fuller sense of who I was. But the paradoxes I've felt in life is this sense of being very caring towards people, and caring a lot more about humanity, really. I wouldn't say I'm the best person to look after someone one-on-one. I can lend an ear, and I seem to have an effect where whenever I meet someone, it's not long before they start sharing with me. The thing that I hear a lot from other people when they meet me, and I've got to know them after a while, is, "Oh, I've never told anyone this before." The amount of times I hear that is ridiculous, "Oh, I've never told anyone this before." And people kind of seem quite comfortable in my presence to reveal things about themselves, which is nice, but sometimes I feel I don't necessarily want to absorb all that, because it feels like I do almost absorb other people's problems, and it tires me out a lot, and sometimes can stress me out a lot. But I kind of feel like I'm too nice sometimes to have a boundary and say, "Look, I don't really want to listen to what you're saying. I've got something else to do." But I'm more concerned with, I guess, things that are happening in a broad picture sense, a big picture sense. I'm not necessarily the guy that I would provide a shoulder to cry on. You know, when it comes to stuff like that, I kind of distance myself. But the big paradox I've had in life is this feeling of desperately wanting to connect with people and enjoying connecting with people, yet at the same time finding that I almost exhaust my capabilities for getting to know people quite quickly, or almost moving through friendships too fast and then wanting to move on or go somewhere else. And balancing this with this huge pull to just disappear. And I will just disappear. Sometimes I've just disappeared from friends. I don't have any, keep in touch with any of the friends I had from high school or primary school, even though I had the same kind of friends through the entire time. I don't know what it is. It's just this feeling of always constantly needing to move on to something new, or to keep searching for something. And this paradox always seems to spring up in my life. You know, I feel drawn to escaping, to going somewhere, being on my own, finding some peace, but it doesn't last very long until I start to almost feel, I guess, down. And I felt like this the last few months, you know, felt like I have been in a heavy introversion, and wanting to go out again. But then I get tired, and it's trying to balance that I guess is being difficult, and it's something that I felt there's something wrong with me, you know. What's wrong with me? Because this doesn't seem to be normal. Why can't I be more balanced? And, you know, but now I'm starting to understand why. Yeah, I've always been able to see certain things and pick out nuances in things, and I guess this would be my NI. And it's so hard to explain to other people. I find it so hard to convey, and I've realised I'm better at doing it through artistic means, writing, or I'm quite interested in kind of visual arts, movies, anything that I can use music in as well. I find music is the language of emotions, and it's the quickest way to be able to convey what you're feeling to someone else, especially if you can combine it with visual imagery. There's times when I really can sense what I can only describe as like super sensible worlds. I can be walking in the woods or whatever out in the countryside, and I'll stop and I'll look at a certain scene, and I look at it and I see the beauty that is inherent in the physical scene, but I also have a very strong awareness that there is almost another world just behind that, just kind of almost peeking out. And whenever I feel that, I always feel a tremendous sense of longing inside of me, a tremendous sense of feeling like there is a place beyond what I can see with my physical eyes that maybe I have been to before. And I always find it so hard to try and describe that to people, but it happens a lot, and sometimes I feel it at night time as well. If I'm driving, or when I was a young one, I remember sitting in the back of a car, being driven through maybe the countryside, or just through small villages and towns in the countryside, you know, after 10 p.m, around that kind of time, around that kind of almost magical midnight hour. And I remember I'd be looking out the window and I'd have such a keen awareness that there was some magical quality outside. And it was almost like another world where when everyone was asleep, everyone had gone to bed, and there was this strange ethereal quality to things. And I've always noticed this seems to be strongest around early winter, the transition from autumn into winter. And there's something about it that is magical. It's being able to pick up on small things like that I can't logically explain. I don't know why I feel like that, but I just do, and I always have done since I was a young child. It's the same feeling I get sometimes. I get deja vu a lot, and I was always fascinated by history. From a young age, history quickly became one of my favourite subjects, because it wasn't so much that I could imagine what it must have been like to live in these different times and eras. It was more like I knew, or I felt, what it would have been like to live. And I know that sounds silly to some people, but it's true. When I was taken to ruins or castles, and we've got a lot of them here in Britain, I remember if I was standing on a battlement or whatever and I was looking around, I would be able to see exactly how it would have been like to live there. You know, I would see the people walking around around the kitchens and the cooks and the chefs, and imagine what it would have been like in the Great Hall with all the wooden panelling and the big paintings and banners and the huge fire and the soldiers on the battlements, and what it would have been like to defend something like that. I always just had such a keen sense of realistic imagination and a connection to things like that. I always have. And it's having this sensitivity to things like that, to music and film and emotion, and this almost transcendental thing of being able to feel underlying currents and meanings and stuff that I've had my whole life. But most of the time I've kept it under wraps, you know. It's not something I've wanted to share with people, and when I have tried to share with people, I haven't been able to express it verbally. It just comes out sounding weird. But at the same time, there are times when I cannot be this deep, you know, because it's not like it's something I necessarily always enjoy. There's times when I look at people who are just having a laugh, and they're with their mates and they're with their friends, and they're just happy-go-lucky, you know, and I'm just like, I wish I could just be like that a bit more often without always feeling weighed down by all this heaviness or this depth, and always needing to figure everything out and always needing to search for meaning. It would be nice to let go of that. And there's been times in my life when I have been able to do that, and I've been able to come across as someone who is literally the complete opposite of the things I've just said. And, you know, people have gone, whoa, you're crazy, man. Tom, you're nuts. You know, you're so out there, outgoing and stuff. And I really have tried to push my boundaries in that respect. And I can do it for a while, but eventually I always have to come back and touch base with this other side of me, you know? This deeper side, this side that feels, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but I always have to come back, and I enjoy it, you know? It does feel like home. It does feel like home, but it's quite hard fitting into a modern society that is so fast-paced and values things that I see not a lot of meaning in, you know? I understand that things are needed, and I understand, and you know, everyone's different and people like different things, and that's fine. But there are times when I just feel like, man, I just wish there was more of a place for these kind of things that I feel and sense. Okay, well, I'll just try and end with a few lighter things I've noticed, because that has been already quite deep. Writing long comments, there we go, that's a funny one. I've always written long comments whenever it's been writing emails or on social media. I've always been someone who has written long comments, you know. I didn't know this was anything to do with an INFJ, but it does seem to be something that does seem to arise a lot with INFJs, and it's quite funny. And whenever anyone comments on my videos now who's an INFJ, it's always a long, detailed comment. And I've always done this as well. I mean, you should see the texts I used to send to people, and I still do. The one thing that always ticks me off is when I send someone a text, and sometimes I'll send like 3 texts in a row, and they'll reply with "okay," and I'm just like, what? I just sent you like an essay, and you're just replying with "okay." What does it even mean? Are you pissed off with me? Are you angry? Did I do something to annoy you? Oh! And I just start spinning all of these paranoid tales in my mind about it. But I realise it's just because not everyone wants to write an essay as a text. But yeah, writing long comments, spending ages editing them, making sure every word is spelled correctly, using the thesaurus a lot to try and make yourself feel more intelligent. And then feeling like you've said exactly what you wanted to say, it's coming across pretty well, you post it, and then a couple of minutes later you come back and delete it because you're just like, oh no, what if someone points out some flaw, or what I'm not quite sure if it's come across the way I wanted to come across, someone might take it the wrong way, blah blah blah. So that's always been a funny one. Never really enjoying going out clubbing. When I was younger, I did, and there were times when I could enjoy it because I actually really enjoy dancing. You know, I find it's a way to just to get out of my head. But I don't like the atmosphere of a lot of clubs. It's very heavy. It is very aggressive, especially in the UK. I think you can go into some clubs and there's just this feeling I get that a lot of people go there after having a hard week at work, and there's a lot of stress that's been built up, and they go and they get very drunk, and it's just like, you know, there's those guys that you look at with the wrong look and suddenly there's a fight erupts and stuff, and I've never enjoyed that kind of atmosphere. It always makes me feel on edge. But at the same time, I do like, if it's somewhere that doesn't have that atmosphere and it's a bit more light, then, you know, I quite enjoy that. But the traditional kind of clubbing scene has never been my bag. I'd prefer to sit in the corner of some old pub with low hanging beams and with a small group of people and just talk about, you know, philosophical stuff and deep things. And I guess that's what I always love to do, and I can talk about stuff like that all night. I mean, I won't shut up about it. You know what, I'm going to end it here because otherwise this video is going to go on for too long. But there we go, that's some insights of what it's been like living as an INFJ, some of the deeper things. If you identify with any of that, leave a comment, that'd be great to see. Like I say, I could go on and talk about more, and probably will in other videos, but there you go. That's one part of it. Thanks for watching, and have a good day or evening or whatever you're doing.